It's the most powerful show on television. High drama with intense energy. A show dedicated to a few brave souls who risk their lives for the sake of their craft. Its in-depth reporting goes to the core and unlocks the mysteries behind today's raciest sport. Motorsports. Catch it when you can.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Post Tech. Today we move on to episode number 18, coming off a very fun weekend of flat track action at the Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. By the way, hard to believe we're already up to episode number 18 of Post Tech. We're getting through them rather quickly at this point. But first off, let's get right into the subject matter. Let's talk about the very intense battle we had all throughout the race, really, between Tyler Ankrum and Daniel Suarez for the victory in the Bommarito Automotive Group 500. Frustrations between the two of them after Suarez got into Tyler Ankrum coming off of turn 4, right in the middle of stage number 1, turning Ankrum down to the inside while Ankrum managed to keep that car going with just a little bit of left side damage, but still, it knocked the toe in just a little bit on that number 26 car, ill handling all throughout the rest of the day. But Ankrum ran a fantastic race, driving his way all the way back through the field after getting that damage repaired for the most part. They really didn't fix the toe in being messed up because you would lose, 2 or so laps trying to fix something that major. However, they did get the damage repaired to where it wasn't rubbing on any fenders or anything. They did not cut any more tires, and they looked in position to win the race very near to the end. However, that is until he ran into the lap car of Ryan Newman. They don't call him the kidney stone for nothing, let's just say that. Ankrum could not get around Ryan Newman in that 6 car for Roush Fenway Racing very cleanly, and that opened up the door for Daniel Suarez, who drove by with about 10 laps to go, getting around that 26 car of Ankrum, and held on to take his second win in a row in the Double Zero car for Starcom Speed Station and his third win of the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series campaign. Ankrum even had Jimmy Johnson atop the pit box of that number 26 team during the race, so that was a little bit more extra incentive for Ankrum, likely Johnson coaching him a little bit. As we know, Tyler Ankrum is Johnson's unofficial protege. Nothing officially announced between those two, but Jimmy's been seen around him quite often, and you can kind of tell going off of what started at Texas World Speedway last year, their relationship started to build, and because of those relationships, there is rumors right now that Tyler Ankrum could take over the 24 car at Hendrick Motorsports at the end of the season, coming into next season. But Daniel Suarez capitalized on his competition, getting into lap traffic 2 weeks in a row, and he scored 2 victories in the process. You recall last week at Mansfield, the 41 car of Cole Custer blocked the 22 of Joe Logano consistently. They got a big fine out of that situation. But still, Daniel Suarez capitalized on that. The number 6 car didn't intentionally block the 26, really. It's just Newman racing you hard, as he always will, to try and stay on at least the lead lap or stay 1 lap ahead. Even if he is multiple laps down, he doesn't want to drop another lap down. So Newman always wants to mix it up with anyone who's trying to pass him. But Daniel Suarez has capitalized on lap traffic 2 weeks in a row, and it's led him to 2 victories. But we have to talk about Ankrum. I mean, just an absolutely phenomenal performance. That team is finally starting to get the chemistry together to where they're running well. They had a lot of struggles to start the year, going from a part-time schedule last year with a lot of success to now a full-time schedule. There was some growing pains there. Likely a lot of that's going to go away with the spec car we'll bring in next year with this next-gen car. But Ankrum appears to be a very legitimate candidate for the 24 car at Hendrick Motorsports, going off of William Byron's recent struggles in that car. Well, then again, it's not exactly recent because he has never made the playoffs and he's never won a cup race. And Ankrum has at least won a non-points race and is performing well enough that he may score a victory before the end of the season. It's looking like his odds making the playoffs are rather low at this point. He'll have to win, we know that, to make it in. Almost did it at Gateway. But Ankrum most likely will end up in that 24 car next year unless William Byron really starts to show off once we get either nearer, I should say, or into the playoffs by starting to score victories or something like that. But it looks like Byron will be looking elsewhere for 2022 in the first year of this next-gen car. If Tyler Ankrum leaves GMS to go to HMS, and we still have Chip Ganassi Racing sell-off, which has been a really big rumor as of recent. We have nothing to confirm that. You wouldn't exactly expect that to happen, even though they've been struggling this year. They still have a very good program going on there. You wouldn't expect it to happen, but the rumors have been gaining momentum lately. So just imagining that Ankrum leaves the 26 car to go over to Hendrick Motorsports, and we have Chip Ganassi Racing sell his team, you might need to think about Jimmy Johnson going to GMS Racing for next season in some capacity. His limited schedule that he's ran this year in the number 92 car is drawing him back in, much like what we saw with Mark Martin when he was running part-time for Ginn Racing, almost won the Daytona 500 back in 07. Then at DEI, he ran very well in that 8 car, the U.S. Army Chevrolet. Then he got that deal with Rick Hendrick to run the full season. Kind of a similar deal here out of Jimmy Johnson, so you might want to expect seeing JJ full-time in the 26 car for GMS next season because his IndyCar career is not exactly going very well. And Johnson appears to have finally found the speed to get the job done in Cup once again. So it really is just the time for him to come back, I personally believe, and Johnson appears to be committed to making a Cup Series return. We have nothing to confirm as of yet, but these are just the current rumors that are gaining a whole lot of momentum. Speaking of contract situations, JTG Daugherty Racing will be re-signing Eric Jones to a long-term extension. Eric Jones himself said in this radio interview, and here's an excerpt of a quote, "I feel right at home there, and I'm staying there as long as they want me. I want to deliver a title to Brad Daugherty on my own terms, no super teams." So that confirms this is a multi-year deal, most likely 3 years, even though the length of the contract has not been announced. But expect Eric Jones in the 37 car, most likely renumbered to 47, for a long-term future, going off of how fantastically they have ran together this season. They'll also be keeping Eric Jones with his crew chief Trent Owens for next year. Great chemistry between those two right now. It's also looking very likely that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will not be returning to the number 47 team next season. Neither will crew chief Brian Patty, because they're more or less going to be shutting down their second car and going to just one car full-time with Eric Jones and Trent Owens working together on what will likely be renumbered to the 47 next season, taking the whole 37 team and moving it to the 47 for next year. So you can add Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s name to the list of notable free agents for next season. Where he's going, we're not exactly sure. We've heard rumors about full-time World of Outlaws racing next year. It's entirely possible with the spec car lowering the cost. Ricky might actually put together his own team for next season and potentially run on a part-time schedule. He could drop down to a lower series. He has a lot of options, and he has backing from NOS Energy Drinks, so there's at least some opportunity there for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but I highly doubt it being at JTG Daugherty Racing next season. We're also starting to really get into the fun part of the silly season at this time of the year because Eric Almirola is being rumored as a candidate for the number 13 truck at Thor Sport Racing next season, considering he probably will not be back in a NASCAR Cup Series car next year. He is driving the same exact equipment as the number 4 team of Kevin Harvick. Harvick is leading the point standings. Almirola is currently 41st in points, and we are already up to race 22. So he will have to make up a full 11 positions and win a race if he wants to make the playoffs. It does not look like that's going to happen. And right now, Almirola is not at the top of free agency. Even Stenhouse is way above him, and Stenhouse might not be back in a Cup car next year. So Almirola looks like he will be looking to either potentially retirement. I doubt it, going off of his age. I don't think he's ready for retirement. But Johnny Sauter has had some very disappointing seasons over the last few years. He's likely going to be a free agent next season, so Almirola would fit in perfectly to that 13 team, carrying Smithfield over to Thor Sport Racing. So it looks like, going off of current rumors, that is a likely possibility for next season. Following in the footsteps, I guess, of Ty Dillon, struggling in Cup, dropping down to the Camping World Truck Series. We used to see that all the time with drivers like Musgrave, Benson, Skinner, Hornaday. We used to see drivers make it up to the Cup level, come back down, or in certain cases start in the Busch or Cup Series at the time and drop down to the Truck Series like Benson did. So I would not doubt Eric Almirola moving to that 13 truck for next season. He'd be a good fit to the series because he's had full seasons before and succeeded very well with it. So I would expect Eric Almirola to be a good addition to the Camping World Truck Series. There's also rumors surrounding Trackhouse Racing and Kevin Harvick. Harvick may be looking to purchase the whole organization under KHI. The Trackhouse Racing team has been struggling all year long with their brand new organization, an upstart team. They're hoping to kind of build some good chemistry for this next-gen car. But really, they've only started to perform fairly well since they've gained sponsorship from Kevin Harvick Management. So it's entirely possible for Harvick to buy out their team and continue his support of their driver, Ryan Preece, who is managed by Kevin Harvick. But at the same time, we also have been hearing a rumor that Harvick may take up the management of TSR, the Camping World Truck Series team, manage the 14 as KHI, restarting their Truck Series program, and put Preece in that truck. So continuing the recent trend, again, of Cup drivers dropping down to the Truck Series. So we could potentially expect Ryan Preece to take up the role that Ron Hornaday had at KHI, just, in the far future compared to what it was back then. So Ryan Preece might be Kevin Harvick's new Hornaday in many ways in the Camping World Truck Series if they do move Preece to TSR, which will likely be renamed to KHI. But Trackhouse Racing has been struggling all season long, and Kevin Harvick is a potential buyer. But I think that Trackhouse is going to try and rough it out, at least until we get a season of the next-gen car, because I don't think they're fully able to show off what they're made of with their current program, because we're with a car we're not going to be using next year. You don't put all your eggs into this basket just to have them scratched for next season. So I would expect Trackhouse to be kind of regrouping for 2022 already, because there's really no shot that they're going to, make the playoffs this year. I mean, they're more or less running like a part-time team with how many races they've missed and then a couple races they've skipped. So they really are just a part-time organization. So next year is probably when they're going to try and really go after it. I don't expect them to sell out to Kevin Harvick, but it is a current rumor. And whatever driver they go with next year, that is completely unknown, because the Ryan Preece thing is just a one-year deal. So maybe Kevin Harvick could throw a lot of money into it, get this kind of situation going a little bit better. But it looks like right now Ryan Preece could potentially be out of Trackhouse Racing unless Harvick either buys in as a majority owner, well, not necessarily majority owner, but at least a stakeholder in the team, or just buys the whole thing out, which has been a few rumors. But Kevin Harvick and Ryan Preece, you got to watch out for those two, because they're going to be doing some moving and shaking over the course of the silly season. Also, let's talk a little bit more about points on the NASCAR Cup Series side. Logano and Hamlin both struggled mightily at Gateway, getting in trouble, especially in that giant front straightaway crash, losing quite a few points on Kevin Harvick in the regular season point battle. In fact, the deficit is now about 15 points, separating Logano from the four-car of Kevin Harvick. They had closed it within 5 points coming into the race at Worldwide Technology Raceway. I'm still stuck on the old terminology of the racetrack, just like how all of us still call it IRP when it's Lucas Oil Raceway. So it's the same kind of deal there. But Daniel Suarez, with his third win of the 2021 season, he actually surpassed Denny Hamlin in points, and he now sets third, less than 40 points out of the Cup Series point lead. So he might be able to make a late season charge to win the regular season championship at Daytona. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen somebody come from the back and end up on top, exiting Daytona and coming into the first race of the playoffs at Darlington. So potentially Daniel Suarez could pull it off if he makes a really strong Final Four race charge on the four-car of Kevin Harvick. You'll have to watch out for him, because he's within one race of the point lead. And Kevin Harvick, just one race where he DNFs or potentially even DNQs at a track like Daytona. You definitely need to watch out on that 00 car to potentially take home the regular season championship, because the battle is not over by any stretch of the imagination. We still have about 4 drivers going after it. You have Logano trailing Harvick by just a few points, Suarez closing the gap, and long shot now Denny Hamlin, who could still pull it off. Here's some big Cup Series news before we roll into Road America for the second time in series history. First time since 1956, by the way, back in the Grand National era, just a little bit outside of Strictly Stock. Both Matt Kenseth and Paul Menard are coming out of retirement. Sort of. They haven't officially announced retirement, but they stepped away from full-time competition for the Jockey Made in America 250 from Road America, with Matt Kenseth driving the number 08 DeWalt Chevrolet for Chip Ganassi Racing, making his first Cup start since his career-ending crash, not exactly anymore, at Pocono last season. He wants to make sure that his at least final Cup Series start doesn't end in the hospital, and also doesn't end in a way that he can't remember his final start because he was knocked unconscious in the wreck at Pocono Raceway. So Kenseth wants to try and end his career on a high note, especially at his home racetrack up in Wisconsin. And Paul Menard will be running Roger Penske's number 02 car. Obviously, Scott McLaughlin's not going to be running it. This weekend coincides with IndyCar competition, so McLaughlin won't be in the car. They don't have anyone else scheduled for it. Paul Menard, obviously from Wisconsin, he's won there in a NASCAR Xfinity Series car before. He's got experience at that racetrack. He also won there in a NASCAR Midwest Tour car at Road America, so he has a tremendous amount of experience. He brings, obviously, Menard sponsorship, so I would expect Paul Menard to run fairly well there as well. Obviously, Kenseth and Menard both have to make the field on time in qualifying, but they should likely be able to do it, and it should be very fun watching those two veterans of our sport go after it if they can make the field in the Jockey Made in America 250 from Road America. And now let's give you the highlights of the DieHard 200 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race from the Milwaukee Mile, the first time the series has taken on that famous racetrack since 2009. In the race analysis, here in the DieHard 200 at the Milwaukee Mile, today's event will take place over the course of 200 laps around the 1 mile here in Wisconsin, with stage number 1 coming to its conclusion on lap 50 and stage number 2 ending on lap 100. Keep in mind that the inside line of this racetrack has been freshly repaved with a new sheet of asphalt. There's about a truck width of usable racing surface above that on the old asphalt, and then above there is more or less marbles. The air truck will push all the way up into the outside wall if you crest that area of usable racing surface. So these drivers are really going to have to be on their toes here today at the Milwaukee Mile to stay within more or less the usable racing surface. Down on that brand new, fresh black asphalt that they put onto this racetrack here, they kind of did that to save some cost a little bit by not paving the entirety of the racetrack, just paving the racing line, but competitors will be running above that racing line, especially on restarts, sliding up into the marbles and potentially into trouble. So we'll really have to keep our eyes on that here today at Milwaukee, because the surface here is very worn out once you get off of that fresh pavement. And outside of the fresh pavement, like I said, you have that truck width of usable racing surface, and then above there is just dust and marbles. So you really have to make sure you stay below. I guess in many ways it's a lot like the fluff that we had at the Bristol dirt track. Once you get up to the top of the racetrack, where there should traditionally be a cushion at a dirt track, that racetrack had more or less just loose dirt. Well, here at Milwaukee, you go a little bit too high up the racetrack, you get up into just dust and plow right towards the outside wall. This is more or less the opposite of what we saw at New Hampshire, where they were using a car width below the apron all the way up to the outside wall of usable racing surface. Here at Milwaukee, if you get outside of more or less that fresh pavement and slide up the racetrack just a little bit, you're going to be in very deep trouble coming off of these corners. Keep in mind, this is the second race of the Triple Truck Challenge. A lot of money is up for grabs, especially for last week's winner, Timothy Peters, in the 87 truck for Nemco Motorsports, and a potential possibility of an extension of Camping World sponsorship that he earned last week at Memphis with his victory, but also the complete opportunity for a new Camping World Truck Series regular to take home $50,000 of bonus money by taking home the win here in the DieHard 200 and 2 races of Camping World primary sponsorship. And so now in the regular season point standings, Matt Crafton holds the advantage by just 5 points above Sheldon Creed, following 2 flip-flop races in point standings at both Michigan and Memphis, where Creed struggled at Michigan and Crafton struggled at Memphis. So it's been back and forth all season long between those two. That's why the point gap is so tight. Then we have long shot regular season championship contender Ben Rhodes in the 99 truck for ThorSport. He sets 26 points out of the point lead, still well within 1 race of points up to his teammate Matt Crafton. Christian Eckes is 4th in points, 43 points out of the point lead. That is tied with Ty Gibbs, but Eckes gets the tiebreaker with an additional win on the season, so Gibbs is 5th in regular season point standings. Grant Enfinger, teammate to point leader Matt Crafton, he sets 6th in regular season points, 45 points out of the lead. Casey Mears in 7th, 50 points out of the lead. Parker Kligman in that 75 truck, For Henderson Motorsports, great runs all season long. He sets 8th in regular season points, 52 points out of the point lead. Timothy Peters in the 87 truck, he picked up 1 spot in point standings last week with his win out at Memphis, moving up to 9th in regular season points, 55 points out of the lead. And Ty Dillon has moved up to 10th, 67 points out of the point lead, still without a win on the season. In your playoff standings, Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, Austin Hill, Sheldon Creed, Ty Gibbs, Grant Enfinger, Casey Mears, Timothy Peters, Dawson Cram, Ryan Truex, and Stuart Friesen are all locked into the playoffs so far via their wins this season. Parker Kligerman sets best of the rest, 46 points above the cutoff line. Then Ty Dillon just 31 points above, matching his truck number. Brett Holmes, defending ARCA Menard Series champion, sets 10 points above the cut line. Then Austin Theriault is just 7 points above the cut line in the 92 truck for Brad Keselowski Racing. John Hunter Nemechek, this is a bit of a surprise, sets 7 points on the outside looking in the Ford truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports coming into today's DieHard 200. Then Ty Majeski is 16 points on the outside looking in after finishing runner-up at both Texas World Speedway and Michigan. He is looking to potentially take home his first career Camping World Truck Series win here this afternoon at his home racetrack in Milwaukee. Then Zane Smith in the 21 truck for GMS, defending Rookie of the Year award winner. He sets 23 points on the outside looking in. Very big surprise right there, going off of his successful 2-win season last year at both Dover and Michigan. He scored victories. Then Brendan Poole, who won the Geico 500 on the NASCAR Cup Series side, sets 57 points out of making the playoffs right now in the 30 truck for On Point Motorsports. That is more or less must-win territory because that is beyond one race worth of points that he has to make up on 16th position to make the playoffs in 2021. Todd Gilliland has scored the pole here in the DieHard 200 at the Milwaukee Mile in the number 38 truck for Front Row Motorsports. Outside him is the number 98 of Grant Enfinger. Third place starter is Sheldon Creed, who comes into this race second in points, trailing Matt Crafton. The number 99 truck of Ben Rhodes is starting in 9th spot. Tim Richmond is starting the number 53 truck in 11th position in his second career Camping World Truck Series start. The 51 truck of Corey Heim is starting in 12th position. The 3 truck of Brandon McReynolds is starting down in 13th spot. The 44 truck of Bailey Curry is starting in 17th position. The 24 truck of Raphael Lassard is starting in 18th. The 17 of Taylor Gray is starting in 19th position. Matt Crafton, your point leader coming into today's event, is starting all the way down in 21st spot. He's got a lot of track position to make up on the number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, who at the moment has actually taken away the point lead off the 88 truck with how many positions he out-qualified him. Say hello to Will Rogers once again after his terrifying tumble at Watkins Glen International. He is back in the 40 truck this weekend for Nice Motorsports, and he qualified down in 26th position. The 61 truck of Max McLaughlin is starting down in 29th spot. The 1 truck of Haley Deegan is starting in 32nd position. The 04 truck of Corey Roper is starting down in 34th. The 0 truck of Tate Fogelman is starting in 38th position. The 15 truck of Tanner Gray is starting all the way down in 42nd spot. You know, keep in mind we had some very strong trucks fail to make the field, including the 03 truck of Danny Bone, 22 of Austin Wayne Self, 50 of Gracie Trotter, who yet again attempted to make one of her Camping World Truck Series starts. Unfortunately, did not go well for Bill McAnally Racing in that 50 team. The 56 of Tyler Hill did not make the race. The 97 of Jesse Little and the 8 of Camden Murphy. Keep in mind, Danny Bone won a stage last week at Memphis. He doesn't even make the show here at Milwaukee, and the 97 truck of Jesse Little ran up front at Memphis. That just shows you how competitive this truck series is. You show up last week with a great truck, well, next week, you might not even be good enough to make the race. When the green flag came out for the DieHard 200 at the Milwaukee Mile, the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland, your pole sitter, got the jump above the number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger down to the first 2 corners. The 98 truck of Enfinger actually got up into the marbles, up in that old pavement, slid back and allowed the second place runner coming into this race in point standing, Sheldon Creed, to take away the second position in the race. With a huge advantage currently above the number 88 truck of Matt Crafton. If the race were to end now, he will walk away with the point lead. On lap number 5, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters actually drove his way around the 46 of Chandler Smith, taking up the 5th position, picking up almost right where he left off out at Memphis, taking home the victory there, continuing his strong run here into the Milwaukee Mile. On lap 6, the 92 truck of Theriault goes wide in 3rd position, gets up into the outside wall just a little bit, and allows the 31 truck of Ty Dillon to his inside, with Dillon taking up the third position using that fresh pavement. On lap number 8, getting forced 3 wide by Haley Deegan down on the inside, the 61 truck of Max McLaughlin gets up into the outside wall on the exit of turn number 2. Pretty significant right side damage on that Toyota Tundra. That very same lap, the 11 truck of Davis, coming off of turn 4, actually slams the outside wall very hard. Back down to the start-finish line, a lot of right side damage on the 11 truck. On lap number 11, the 13 truck of Johnny Sauter has actually raced his way all the way up into 7th spot in his home race here up in the Milwaukee Mile, getting around the number 92 truck of Austin Theriault most recently. On lap number 12, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon gets a great turn through the center of turns 3 and 4. Getting to the inside, the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed and taking up the second position as the 38 of Todd Gillen runs away with that race lead. Timothy Peters also takes advantage of the number 2 truck of Creed moving up the racetrack, gets to the inside through turns 3 and 4, and Peters has now moved up into the third position, the 87 truck for Nemco Motorsports. The caution flag waved on lap number 14 is entering turn number 3. The 45 truck of Jet Nolan gets on the brakes just a little bit harder than Derek Kraus anticipated. Kraus makes contact with the 45 truck, turning him pretty hard up into the outside wall right in front of our cameras. Heavy contact between the 45 and 19 trucks. Quite a bit of damage on Nolan's truck, bringing out our first caution flag of the day due to an accident. Also, the 15 truck of Tanner Gray got a piece of the action as well. On lap 15, we have pit stops. Most of the leaders decide to come down pit road. However, Timothy Peters will be staying out and assuming the race lead. Above the 13 truck of Johnny Sauter, 16 of Austin Hill, and several others will have to stay out. So more or less, this is going to split the field in half of those who stay and those who go. And keep in mind, one of the drivers who opted to stay out is the 88 truck of Matt Crafton. He is now going to restart in 9th position, a big pickup in track position for this number 88 team, getting out front through pit strategy. We're definitely going to be seeing a lot of back and forth today between the number 2 and 88 trucks. Right now, Crafton, because he has surpassed Sheldon Creed because Creed came down pit road. The 88 truck, if the race were to end now, will leave Milwaukee with the point lead. But remember that Creed only has to make up just 5 points on this 88 truck, and that can be done very easily with this tight of a point battle. First truck off of pit road was the 38 of Todd Gillen, then the 46 of Chandler Smith, and 31 of Ty Dillon. They will be restarting 12th through 14th. The 2 truck of Sheldon Creed actually lost 2 spots with a bit of a slow pit stop. The number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger actually got up into the outside wall during that first green flag run. They came down pit road with most of the rest of the lead lap trucks, but they had to get some right side damage repaired. They actually lost about 15 spots with a very slow stop due to damage repair. We had a very chaotic restart on lap number 19. Johnny Sauter pressuring the 87 of Timothy Peters through the first 2 corners. Peters gets a little bit aero loose from the 13 truck of Johnny Sauter, taking the air off that rear spoiler. Peters gets up into them marbles and up into the outside wall. Farther back, we have the 24 truck of Raphael Lassard hitting the wall. Then the 09 of Stephen Parsons almost getting turned around down into the 33 truck of Ryan Truex. The field fanning out to try and miss the cars. You have Tim Richmond taking an incredibly shallow entry into turn number 3. 5 wide moment, and the caution flag is already waving for debris. Then coming through turns 3 and 4, yet again we were talking about all the marbles up in the outside lanes. Well, guess what? We have 3 trucks now running up in the outside lines. 3 teammates in particular. Tim Richmond shoving his teammates Christian Eckes and Ryan Truex up the racetrack. They make contact. They run out of racing room. The 12 truck of Eckes gets turned up into the outside wall by the 33 of Ryan Truex. They connect and slide all the way down the front straightaway as the field has to take evasive action. 5 wide before they get it settled down. But a very dicey restart here at the Milwaukee Mile when we are back under caution after just 1 lap under green. The 88 truck of Matt Crafton got a little bit of front-end damage from the skirmish. But guess what? Johnny Sauter has taken away the race lead in that 13 truck above now, the 44 of Bailey Curry, who took up second. Then on lap 20, most of the race leaders opt to stay out. However, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters, after getting his tires horribly dirty by sliding up the racetrack, comes down pit road, as well as the 24 of Raphael Lassard, 60 of Casey Mears, then the 09 truck of Stephen Parsons, and the rest of the trucks that got damage from the altercation all throughout that first lap under green on the restart. The number 88 truck of Matt Crafton got damage repairs down pit road, getting that front end damage repaired just a little bit, and he is actually going to restart outside the top 30. There you see the front runners, and right there is the neon yellow machine of Matt Crafton. And guess what? The drivers did not learn their lesson from the first restart. Down through turns 1 and 2, the 13 and 44 trucks of Bailey Curry and Johnny Sauter move up the racetrack. Just a little bit too wide. Get up into the marbles. It's very unforgiving up there. They lose a whole lot of grip. Then on the inside, we have the 16 truck of Austin Hill squirting by to take the race lead as Sauter and Curry follow each other up into the outside wall. And it does not take long for us to get the caution. The 15 truck of Tanner Gray tags the wall down into the 12 of Christian Eckes. And then that gets clipped by the 18 of Ty Gibbs and into the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen, turned around down the back straightaway. Then Will Rogers has nowhere to go, makes contact with the 52 truck, damage on both Stuart Friesen and Will Rogers' trucks. As the caution flag waves once again, cautions are breeding cautions here at the Milwaukee Mile. And racing back to the flag, the 16 truck of Austin Hill is now the race leader, above the 42 of Carson Hocevar, with a great run on that restart, with the 46 of Chandler Smith taking up the third position. There is fantastic grip down on that fresh asphalt on the bottom of the racetrack, with this very, very worn out asphalt up the racetrack with dust on top of it too, because this racetrack has not been used very much since it practically closed for several years. It makes for a very tough driving condition once you get up out of that racing groove. Lap 25, yet again we have pit strategy. This time the race leaders come down pit road, being led down by Austin Hill and Carson Hocevar. Farther back you also have Sauter and several others hitting the pits, but Chandler Smith will be staying out above Todd Gilliland. Then Tate Fogelman now assuming third position. Tim Richmond in fourth, and Corey Heim in fifth spot. On the restart, the number 51 truck of Corey Heim spins his tires, but down into turns 1 and 2, the 46 truck of Chandler Smith gets pressured up the racetrack by the 38 of Todd Gilliland. Gilliland squeezes by down on the inside as Smith goes up into the outside wall. Todd Gilliland, your pole sitter, is now the race leader once again. Tim Richmond has made his way up into second. Very treacherous racing conditions here at the Milwaukee Mile. The real irony of this is it is a completely sunny day up here in Wisconsin. Middle of the summer, it's about 88 degrees, so the track surface is rather slick, but weather conditions is not getting in the way of these drivers' grip. It's just how worn out that asphalt is up there. And it's a lot like some of the short tracks we see across the country that are very old. They reopen. Well, it's more or less just marbles up the racetrack. We've seen that at many short tracks across the country. This is just one of the biggest racetracks at over 1 mile in size to have this type of problem, and it's because this track sat dormant for a number of years. They got around this problem at the Nashville Superspeedway by applying a bit of a resin over the racetrack, but they did not opt to do that here at Milwaukee. So they're running on close to 30-year-old asphalt up off of that inside line, and that really explains why these trucks push so badly coming off of the corners. There's just no grip in that old pavement. We've also had both the 45 and 40 trucks out of Nice Motorsports of Will Rogers and Jet Nolan come down pit road to try and put on tires and top off to get to the end of stage number 1, and hopefully at the end of the caution cycle out ahead of the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland if they opt to stay out. But honestly, with how old the asphalt is here at Milwaukee, once you get off that inside line, I would not really recommend trying to have 20-lap older tires on a restart. I think that'd be a really big detriment to your pace. The number 09 truck of Stephen Parsons is now out of the DieHard 200 due to an engine failure. You can also see right here the 38 truck of Gilliland slides up the racetrack, gets up into the loose stuff. That's your race leader up into the outside wall, and that's going to allow the 53 truck of Tim Richmond to close the gap. Now looking down to the inside, entering turn number 3. Richmond down on the fresh pavement. That's a big advantage for the 53 truck. Now inching ahead, coming back to the start-finish line as the caution flag waves. Tim Richmond is now your race leader here at Milwaukee. Edging out the 38 of Todd Gilliland back down to the start-finish line. A great move out of Richmond to keep it down on that fresh pavement and stay out of the loose stuff, as the 38 truck of Gilliland now has quite a bit of right side damage from slapping the outside wall. And here's why we are now under caution. The 41 truck of Dawson Cram gets a great run down to the inside of the 55 of Ty Majeski coming down into turn number 3. But much like what we saw with Derek Kraus earlier in the race, the 41 truck slows down just a little bit earlier than the 4 truck anticipated, turned up right into the outside wall. A huge hit for that 41 truck of Dawson Cram. Big time damage on one of our playoff drivers. Cram is going to have a lot of damage repair on this pit cycle. And this brings out yet another caution here at the Milwaukee Mile. Cautions still breeding cautions, and you have to admit Cram is extremely lucky to have scored that victory at Michigan just 2 weeks ago, because now they are locked into the playoffs. They wrecked out at both Memphis and now involved in trouble here at the Milwaukee Mile. If they would not have been locked into the playoffs with their win at Michigan, they'd be in a deep playoff hole right now. And so now race leader Tim Richmond will stay out, but the 38 truck of Todd Gillen comes down pit road, likely due to some of that right side damage he has. But Gillen hits the pits, as well as Chandler Smith, Taylor Gray, and several others. The second place runner will now be Brennan Poole in the 30 truck for On Point Motorsports, then the 31 of Ty Dillon composing your top 3. And guess what? Tim Richmond, in only his second career Camping World Truck Series start, learned his lesson from the multiple restarts he saw up in front of him, kept it down on the inside line, and did not slide up the racetrack on the restart. We did have some contact coming off of turn number 2. The 16 truck of Austin Hill tries to force the 21 of Zane Smith up the racetrack, makes contact with him, almost tries to send him around off of turn 2, but they managed to catch it without going around. On lap 38, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon takes away the second position coming off of turn 2. But then at the end of the lap, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs pressures him on the exit of turn number 4, taking away the second position. The 18 truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports. By lap 40, the number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed currently runs in 5th position, and the 88 of Matt Crafton currently resides in 12th spot. So the point gap is still incredibly close, but right now the 2 truck will hold the point lead. Lap 42, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs slides up the racetrack, opening up the door for Brendan Poole on the inside, and Poole will take up the second position in the 30 truck for On Point Motorsports. On lap 43, the 30 truck of Brendan Poole tries to run into the bumper of the 53 truck of Tim Richmond. That opens up the door on the inside for Corey Heim to take up second. Opening up the gap from Richmond back to the second place runner. Incredible battling out front here at Milwaukee. But then the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs pressures Corey Heim through turns 1 and 2. Those two are teammates as Brendan Poole slides up the racetrack. Sheldon Creed now making advances down on the inside, now up into 4th position. Here comes Ty Gibbs to the inside of his teammate. Through turns 3 and 4, Ty Gibbs is now going to retake the second position for Kyle Busch Motorsports, still trying to get around Tim Richmond. And so now on lap 45, the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed has driven his way up to 4th position, but guess what? The 88 of Crafton currently runs in 8th position, so they're still keeping that point gap incredibly close. On lap 47, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs slides up the racetrack, once again gets up into the loose stuff, hits the outside wall with a pretty hard impact. That boxes in the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, who also got up into the wall, and allows the 30 of Brendan Poole to shoot down on the inside and take up the second position. This has really opened up the gap up to the 53 truck of Tim Richmond, who is now running away with the race lead with just a few laps to go in stage number 1. And look at this, the 88 of Crafton has reeled in the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed. Right now, Crafton will leave the race with the point lead once again. Incredibly close battling right here as the battle for the regular season championship runs nose to tail. On lap 49, we actually have a stage number 1 ending caution. The 55 truck of Ty Majeski slides up the racetrack, opening the door for the 31 truck of Ty Dillon on the inside. Dillon moves up the track, makes contact with the 55 of Majeski down into the 1 of Haley Deegan. Getting that 1 truck sideways, back up into the outside wall, then turns down to the 3 truck of Brandon McReynolds, gets finished off down to the inside wall by the 3, fully turned around, bringing out the caution flag. Then McReynolds moves up the racetrack and gets hit right in the right side door by the 17 truck of Taylor Gray, knocking him out of the race. And now through turns 3 and 4, the 30 truck of Brendan Poole gave it one last shot but overdrove the corner. Tim Richmond will win his first career Camping World Truck Series stage, taking home the stage number 1 victory here at the Milwaukee Mile. Richmond will win stage number 1 above Brendan Poole in second spot, Sheldon Creed in third, Matt Kraft in fourth. Very close point battle right there. And Austin Hill rounding out your top 5. And at the end of stage number 1, the majority of the field opts to come down pit road, being led by stage number 1 winner, Tim Richmond. But the 16 truck of Austin Hill has opted to stay out, as well as Brett Moffitt, Carson Hocevar, and several others behind them that will make it very difficult for the trucks on fresh rubber to carve their way through the field. First truck off of pit road is Tim Richmond, above the 30 of Brendan Poole and the 2 of Sheldon Creed. And on the restart, we had yet another incident of the leaders overcharging the exit of turn number 2. The 16 and 23 trucks of Brett Holmes and Austin Hill both follow each other continually up the racetrack, as there's very, very minimal grip up there. The 42 truck of Carson Hocevar, however, is planted on the fresh asphalt. The 16 and 23 trucks both go up into the outside wall, as well as the 44 truck of Bailey Curry just a little bit, allowing Carson Hocevar to steal away the race lead down the back straightaway and into turn number 3. Johnny Sauter on the inside as well will take up second in the 13 truck for Thorsport. While trying to make his way through the field on fresh tires, Tim Richmond actually goes 4 wide beneath the 41 truck of Dawson Cram. Then on his inside, he has Sheldon Creed and Jet Nolan. Very dicey racing here at the Milwaukee Mile as the field tries to make their way past a lot of the slower trucks, especially the ones on fresher rubber, getting around those who opted to stay out. On lap 56, the 23 truck of Brett Holmes, who opted to stay out, has to come down pit road. Had a tire going down from contact that he made up with the outside wall. And right here, he drops 1 lap down from race leader Carson Hocevar. And on lap 57, how about this? John Hunter Nemechek currently runs in 5th position. This is a really great turnaround from earlier on in today's race, getting involved in that accident with Dawson Cram. Pretty good run going on for this number 4 team right now. They need to do something to try and turn around their season, because right now they are in a must-win scenario to make the playoffs this year. They really need to make something happen. And also Haley Deegan in the 1 truck for LGR has now made her way up into 9th spot. On lap 59, we have yet another caution flag as the 26 and 19 trucks of Derek Kraus and Chase Purdy chase their way up the racetrack, no pun intended. 19 truck collides with the outside wall. 26 has nowhere to go. They get turned around on the exit of turn number 2. 15 truck gets involved in this one. 26 truck jumps off the ground just a little bit. 52 truck of Stuart Friesen gets involved. The 41 truck of Dawson Cram just barely shoots by, and a lot of front-end damage on our Daytona race winner of Casey Mears. Really knocked out of race-winning contention now for Germain Racing. Here's another look at the impact to the 60 truck of Mears. Has nowhere to go as the accident erupts up in front of him. A lot of front-end damage on that truck. And here you also have the 26 truck getting up into the air with those left side tires after getting hit by the 19 truck a second time. Then the 60 plows in, and a great miss right here by Dawson Cram. Little bit of sparks between the 41 and 52, but nothing major. On lap 60, the top 2 trucks opt to come down pit road, along with them several others, including Johnny Sauter and Ty Gibbs. However, Christian Eckes will stay out and assume the race lead above John Hunter Nemechek, Michael Self, Ty Dillon, and Sheldon Creed. And yet again, we had a very treacherous restart. Down through turns 1 and 2, the 12 truck of Christian Eckes leaves open some of the bottom to the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek forces him up the racetrack. Now they're both up into the marbles, just trying to chase these trucks and try and stay off the outside wall. However, the 12 truck gets into the wall. Then the 4 moves him up the racetrack into the wall again. They collide up into the outside wall. Right side damage pretty significant on both the 12 and 4 trucks, as the 2 of Sheldon Creed shoots by down on the inside to take away the race lead. Sheldon Creed trying to maximize points here at the Milwaukee Mile, as the 1 truck of Haley Deegan has now moved up into 2nd position. 88 of Matt Crafton somewhat mired in the back as the 25 truck now collides with the wall. And here's just another look at the contact between the race leaders. Pretty heavy damage on both the 12 and 4 trucks, slapping the right side of their trucks up into the outside wall. Concrete barriers on the back straightaway as well, but a perfect opportunity for Sheldon Creed down on the inside. On lap 66, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon gets to the inside of Haley Deegan and takes up the second spot. We also have the 25 truck of Michael Self down pit road. He had the right front tire going down due to contact up into the outside wall. On lap 70, the number 87 truck of Timothy Peters has really mounted a charge towards the front of the field. He has now made his way around Haley Deegan, taking up the third spot, trying to win 2 consecutive races in the Triple Truck Challenge. At the end of lap 70, though, the 51 truck of Corey Heim gets down to the inside of the 87, taking up the third spot for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Lap 73, Chandler Smith sees an opening through turns 1 and 2 to try and stuff it in on the inside beneath his teammate John Hunter Nemechek, Timothy Peters, and Haley Deegan, making a 4-wide move on the exit of turn number 2. Guess what? Nobody makes contact with the outside wall right there. A little bit of contact farther back with Parker Kligerman, but that's actually unrelated to this 4-wide move. But great car control out of these 4 competitors to stay off of each other. And folks, at the end of lap number 73, we have one of the strangest accidents I think I've ever seen on a 1-mile short track, practically like Milwaukee, in a stock car race. Coming off of turn number 4, the 15 truck is a little bit loose, gets tagged by the 16 of Austin Hill, and turned around on the front straightaway. Hill moves up the track to try and avoid the spinning number 15 truck of Tanner Gray, gets clipped by the 92 of Austin Terrio up into the 88 of Matt Crafton, the point leader, and actually turns over on the front straightaway right in front of the flag stand. Then Austin Hill goes into a wild tumble down the front straightaway, barrel rolling multiple times, jumping up into the air, almost to the top of the catch fencing, almost landing on top of Jet Noland and as well Bailey Curry. A remarkable accident. Austin Hill goes uninjured in a very, very strange and wild tumble here at the Milwaukee Mile in Wisconsin. And here's just another shot at it in real time, clipped by the 92 into the 88 and wildly barrel rolling down the front straightaway. Very lucky for Austin Hill to climb from this race truck uninjured, likely going to be sore in the morning, but no injuries. And here's the onboard from point leader Matt Crafton. See right up in front of him, the 16 truck tags the 15. Then he hits into the 16 and sends him in a wild barrel roll down the front straightaway, right up in front of him. That right there could have potentially ended Matt Crafton's chances at the regular season championship. Minimal damage on the 88 truck, but we are very fortunate that Austin Hill went uninjured in that Sidewinder flyer on the front stretch. Racing back to the start-finish line, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon actually closed the gap just about a truck length separating him from the race leader, but Sheldon Creed is still out front here at Milwaukee, taking advantage of Matt Crafton's misfortune. Lap 75, the top 2 trucks of Creed and Dillon opt to stay out. However, Heim leads quite a few trucks down pit road, including Christian Eckes, Todd Gilliland, and Chandler Smith, as Zane Smith pulls up, because he will be staying out, as well as Brendan Poole and Timothy Peters, who are now your top 5. And as you can tell, Matt Crafton will stay on the lead lap. In that 88 truck for ThorSport, right there is the pace car. Crafton pulls off pit road. The team maximizes the amount of time that they had to work on that truck. Great move right there out of ThorSport Racing. Crafton has quite a bit of damage on that 88 truck, but he will at least still be in the race and on the lead lap to try and accumulate points. The full list of trucks out of the race following that accident are Johnny Sauter, who actually plowed into, I believe, the number 19 truck of Derek Kraus while trying to check up for the mess. The 44 truck of Bailey Curry is out of it after having the 16 truck of Austin Hill land on top of him, and obviously the 16 of Hill is officially out of the race, but we are very fortunate to have no injuries following that big of an accident. On the restart, Ty Dillon sees the perfect opportunity to try and force the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed into a mistake, runs him wide on the exit of turn number 2, but this allows the 30 truck of Brendan Poole to go from 4th to 1st, making a 3-wide move underneath both Brendan Poole and Sheldon Creed down to turn number 3. As the caution flag waves once again, the 61 truck of McLaughlin's gone around. Side by side back to the start-finish line, the 30 truck gets a great drive off of turn 4 and beats the 2 of Creed back to the stripe. here's what happened to the 61 of Max McLaughlin. 45 truck runs way wide on the exit of turn 2. 61 truck has almost nowhere to go, makes contact with Jet Nolan down to the 19 truck of Derek Kraus. That's Kraus's third accident of the day. Right up in front as well of the 0 of Tate Fogelman, has to take evasive action and finishes off the 61 of McLaughlin. Lap 80, everyone opts to stay out with the exception of the 87 truck of Timothy Peters, which will be hitting the pits. Also, the damaged number 40 truck of Will Rogers will be running the rest of today's race on the combination of the apron and the pit road to try and stay out of the way of the race leaders and still accumulate points, hoping to outplace any competitors who drop out of the race from here on out. Lap 84 on the restart. Yet again, the leaders overdrive the entry off into the corner. And watch the number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger. Gets the truck pointed in the center, right on the fresh asphalt, as the 32 and 31 trucks all follow each other up into the outside wall. 30 makes contact with the wall as well as the 2, opening the door wide open for the 98 truck of Grant Enfinger, going from 4th to 1st on the restart, as the 41 truck of Dawson Cram has to catch it farther in the back. The caution flag comes out once again on lap 85 as Christian Eckes makes contact with the 92 truck of Austin Terrio coming off of turn 2 down into the 23 of Brett Holmes. Makes a little bit of contact with the point leader, Matt Crafton. The 23 truck of Holmes, defending ARCA Menard Series champion, goes for a 360 down the back stretch, grabs a gear and gets the thing back going, but it is enough to bring out the caution flag. Grant Enfinger led the field back to the caution. Above now, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon, who is in second position, and Zane Smith in third. On lap 90, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs got to the inside of both the 31 of Dillon and the 21 of Zane Smith by running all the way down on that freshly repaved asphalt, going from 4th all the way up to 2nd, and there is now pretty heavy right side damage on the 30 truck of Brendan Poole after tagging the outside wall off of turn 2. The tough day for Eckes continues off of turn 2, gets forced 4 wide by Brett Holmes, who's probably frustrated with him. Then contact gets made between Tanner Gray and Eckes up into the 60 of Casey Mears, almost a repeat, honestly, of the most recent caution. Same exact contenders involved. Then the 60 turns the 12 up into the outside wall, but guess what? No caution flag comes out for this accident. But we do get a caution at the end of the lap. 52 truck of Friesen has an engine failure on the front straightaway. Oil getting dumped all over the racetrack. The 12 truck tries to slow up for the 04. Can't do it in time. Heavy front end damage on the 12 truck of Christian Eckes. Radiator damage from this impact actually knocks Eckes out of the race here at Milwaukee. Contact between Corey Roper and Stuart Friesen sends the 52 truck around on the entry to turn 1. Then Cram makes contact with the 12 truck of Eckes. But both the 12 of Eckes and the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen are now out of the race following that accident. But then racing back to the start-finish line, we have something that really just can't work. Timothy Peters forces a 4-wide move beneath Sheldon Creed, Haley Deegan, and Parker Kligerman, but then contact between Creed and Deegan allows a 5-wide move to be made on the inside by Corey Heim. Racetrack just runs out of room. Deegan gets hit by Hocevar down into the 53 truck of Tim Richmond. Richmond gets turned down the racetrack and a hard hit into the inside wall by Haley Deegan. 51 truck of Corey Heim also got some damage out of this. And Deegan goes around on the front stretch. On lap 92, race leader Grant Enfinger opts to stay out, as well as the second place runner of Ty Gibbs. However, Ty Dillon, Zane Smith, and Brendan Poole will be coming down pit road with a few others, as now John Hunter Nemechek will assume the 3rd position for this restart, getting around the trucks that pitted ahead of him. On lap 96, in 10th position, the second place runner in points, Sheldon Creed, goes way too wide, gets up into the outside wall, which has been a common theme of the race here at Milwaukee. Also, we have Ty Majeski getting into the wall, almost getting turned around, but Matt Crafton actually avoids the madness on the inside and makes significant gains on the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed. And now, once again, the top 2 competitors in points battling side by side here at Milwaukee. We also have the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek getting around his teammate Ty Gibbs. That will move Nemechek up into 2nd position. The number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek has closed the gap up to the 98 truck of Grant Enfinger through turns 3 and 4 for the final time in stage number 2. 4 truck makes a lunge at him. coming off of the final corner, but it's not going to be enough. Grant Enfinger will win stage number 2 at Milwaukee. Enfinger takes home the stage 2 victory in the number 98 truck for Thor Sport Racing, above the 4 of John Hunter Nemechek, 38 of Todd Gilliland, 18 of Ty Gibbs, and 75 of Parker Kligerman. On lap 101, the majority of the lead lap field opts to come down pit road, being led down by Grant Enfinger. However, we had a few trucks stay out, most notably those who just recently came down pit road during the most recent caution. So now your race leader will be Brendan Poole above the 46 truck of Chandler Smith and the 26 of Chase Purdy being your top 3 on the restart. The 1 truck of Haley Deegan was actually the first truck off of pit road with a fuel-only stop. Behind her, we have John Hunter Nemechek, the first truck on fresh tires, and then his teammate, Ty Gibbs. On the restart, the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek shoots down to the inside of Haley Deegan with a 3-wide move underneath. Also, the lap truck of Casey Mears, moving the 4 truck up into the 4th position. Lap 108, we have yet another caution flag come out. Contact between Todd Gilliland and the 21 truck of Zane Smith off of turn 4. Hard into the inside wall goes Zane Smith. Caution flag being displayed once again, and a lot of damage on that GMS Racing Chevrolet. But then we have a lot of controversy racing back to the caution flag for 4th position. You see right there, Carson Hocevar on the inside, using up the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Door-to-door contact right there as Hocevar tries to clear himself on the exit of turn 4. Hocevar has the position back down to the start-finish line, but watch this action into the first turn. John Hunter Nemechek tries to show his displeasure with the 42 truck on the entry to the first corner, but actually makes contact with his right rear quarter panel, sending Carson Hocevar dead up into the outside wall, knocking Hocevar out of the race here in the DieHard 200. A very controversial move out of John Hunter Nemechek, intentionally wrecking Hocevar out of the race. Here's a shot of this battle in real time. 42 truck of Hocevar uses him up out of turn 4. Just really hard racing right there for position. 4 truck of Nemechek definitely not satisfied with it. Makes contact down to turn 1. Turns him straight into that outside wall. And Hocevar is out of the race following this one. A lot of damage on the 4 truck. And here's something else NASCAR did not like. John Hunter Nemechek actually made contact with the 75 truck of Kligerman and the 98 of Grant Enfinger while they were trying to come down pit road, almost sending them both into the pit road attenuator wall. Fortunately, though, Enfinger more or less misses it, as well as Kligerman, but the 4 truck of Nemechek actually makes contact with it. And following this accident, NASCAR has parked the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek is now effectively out of this race after intentionally wrecking Carson Hocevar down into turn number 1. I can guarantee you that NASCAR will at least be handing out a 1-race suspension, just going off of protocols, but going off of the precedent that they set with Kyle Busch after the incident at Bristol with Ryan Unzicker. He got suspended a full 3 NASCAR Cup Series races. You might expect a potentially 2 or 3 race suspension coming for Nemechek in the Camping World Truck Series, as NASCAR does not like this kind of behavior, especially the fact that Nemechek was actually involved in more than 1 incident under this caution flag period. Race leader Brendan Poole has opted to come down pit road, as well as Christian Eckes and Ty Gibbs, along with several others, including Sheldon Creed hitting the pits. But now Spencer Davis will assume the race lead above point leader Matt Crafton, the 15 truck of Tanner Gray, who's had a tough run all day long, finally getting some track position. 51 truck of Corey Hyman, 31 of Ty Dillon. Well, needless to say, both the number 4 and 42 trucks of Hocevar and Nemechek are out of the race following that accident. NASCAR was able to separate the 2 competitors before they could potentially confront each other down pit road, because they both wrecked out at the same time because they pulled the number 42 truck behind the wall and parked the 4 of Nemechek. But NASCAR fortunately separated those 2, because I'm sure they would have been going after each other following this one. And right here we have huge trouble on the restart. Matt Crafton going for all the points he can get Obviously, coming into this race as the point leader has a great opportunity of staying out ahead of that 2 truck. But look at this, Spencer Davis leads the field off way wide on the exit of turn number 2. 88 truck of Matt Crafton is also in the loose stuff, sliding up. You see the 11 truck already into the wall. Crafton slides up and makes contact with him. 15 of Tanner Gray makes contact with the 88. And then door slams the 18 of Ty Gibbs. Gibbs into the inside wall and gets turned around. 15 truck gets slammed by the 26 of Chase Purdy. A lot of trucks with damage on this restart, but especially heavy front-end damage on Purdy. And guess what? On the inside line, the 51 truck of Corey Heim is driven away with the race lead back to the caution flag. And Matt Crafton has actually miraculously hung on to second spot. And Sheldon Creed has now made his way up to 4th. We also had racing back to the caution flag. The number 0 truck of Tate Fogelman completely overcharged the corner right in the center. You see right there, he practically gets onto the throttle, crowds the 19 truck up into the 25 and 45 trucks, then just flat out dumps the 41 truck trying to catch the front end of the 0 and wrecks about 5 trucks. Because right there you see the 60 has nowhere to go as well and turns around the 25. A lot of trucks involved in this one coming off of turn 4 because the 0 truck of Fogelman overdrove the center of the corner. On lap 114, all the trucks involved in the accident opt to come down pit road, but the front runners will stay out, even some of them that got damaged like Matt Crafton and Spencer Davis. And guess what? Matt Crafton restarted the race in second place again, and he tries a very similar move on the 51 truck of Corey Heim, trying to crowd him up the racetrack, take away the race lead. But once again, they both go off the deep end. 51 truck collides with the outside wall. 88 truck has to get onto the binders to slow down without getting into the back bumper of the 51 truck, and that actually opens the door for the 11 of Spencer Davis to take away the race lead down into turn number 3. And a 3-wide move on the inside by Ty Dillon to take up second for Germain Racing. Off into turn number 1, the 30 truck of Brennan Poole goes 3-wide beneath Crafton and Heim to take up third. Lap 119, the 18 truck of Matt Crafton senses a tire going down from that contact that he suffered with Spencer Davis, makes the hard left-hander to try and get down pit road with a very late entry. And right here almost makes contact with the sand barrels, manages to miss them, and he just barely makes his commitment down to pit road. This could have potentially saved Matt Crafton's chances at the regular season championship by not taking his truck out by slamming that attenuator wall. Lap 121, how about this? The 30 truck of Brendan Poole takes up second by getting around the 31 truck of Ty Dillon. Lap 123, Memphis race winner Timothy Peters gets to the inside of Brendan Poole, taking up second spot in the 87 truck for Nemco Motorsports, trying to win the second Triple Truck Challenge race. And this would be huge for Nemco Motorsports if they can take 2 wins out of the Triple Truck Challenge. That's a ginormous monetary advantage for a team such as Nemco that has rather limited funding. For 1 and 2, the 87 truck of Peters, though, slides up the racetrack and gets up into the outside wall, opening the door for Raphael Lassard on the bottom, with Lassard taking up second. Spencer Davis still out front in his very own number 11 truck. Lap 126, the caution flag comes out as Tim Richmond overdrives his exit of turn number 4, slaps the outside wall. Then here comes Tate Fogelman making contact with him. They both go into the wall. The 53 truck finishes off the 0 into the 98 of Grant Enfinger. Enfinger with a lot of damage out of this, sliding down into the inside wall. 0 truck spinning around, brings out yet another caution flag here at the Milwaukee Mile. On lap 127, the race leaders opt to stay out, but Corey Heim, Sheldon Creed, and the 15 truck of Tanner Gray opt to come down pit road. So now on this restart, Davis will lead Lassard and Ty Dillon. On the restart, the number 11 truck of Spencer Davis completely misses the corner way up the racetrack, and that lets Lassard easily take away the race lead as Davis catches the outside wall. But then through 3 and 4, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon gets the turn in the center of the corner, and Ty Dillon takes away the race lead here at the Milwaukee Mile. 87 truck of Timothy Peters now into second. Lap 135, Ty Dillon makes a mistake while out front, slides up the racetrack up into the marbles on the exit of turn number 2, into the wall just a little bit, allowing Timothy Peters to shoot by on the inside and into the race lead once again. Peters now out front, 30 truck of Brennan Poole running in second, and the 99 truck of Ben Rhodes rolling great momentum down on the inside, taking up third after winning earlier this season at Phoenix Raceway. He's proved his worth on these flat 1-mile tracks. Lap 136, Timothy Peters makes the exact same mistake, moves up the racetrack, tags the outside wall just a little bit, and Brennan Poole shoots by to take up the race lead here at the Milwaukee Mile. Ben Rhodes also has gotten around them to take up the second position. On lap 140, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters got back to the inside of Ben Rhodes and takes away the second position off of turn number 4. As you can tell, the 30 truck of Brennan Poole has managed to gap the second place runner of Timothy Peters by now more than 1 second. On lap 142, the 75 truck of Parker Kligerman currently runs in 6th position. Another great run for Henderson Motorsports. And Tim Richmond has done a great job at defending his spot from the number 30 truck of Brennan Poole, and this has allowed the 87 truck of Timothy Peters to close the gap, now just to 0.3 of a second separating first and second. But now by lap 155, the 30 truck has gotten another big gap in lap traffic, and the 87 truck of Timothy Peters is just not good enough to run him down in clean air. Half a second now the separation between the 30 and 87 trucks. Right now, Brennan Poole will have to make a mistake to allow that 87 truck of Timothy Peters to try and make a move. On lap 160, the lap truck of Derek Kraus actually tags the outside wall right alongside the race leader of Brennan Poole. On lap 163, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters gets held up by Boston Terriel. Ben Rhodes uses him as a pick on Peters coming through turns 3 and 4. And now Ben Rhodes has taken up the second position for Thor Sport as the 30 truck is still running away with the race lead. Brennan Poole comes into this race 57 points below the cutoff line. If he can win here today at the Milwaukee Mile, that will definitely throw off the current bubble drivers. And as you can recall, Matt Crafton had to come down pit road due to that flat tire, but he currently resides in 17th position, the highest truck, 1 lap down. And really, that number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed runs in 11th position, so even knowing that right now Creed holds the point lead above the 88 truck, it's only by about 2 points. On lap 169, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon forces the 99 of Ben Rhodes up the racetrack, and Dillon takes up the second position, and still the 30 truck gapping the field. And how about this on lap 173, the 46 truck of Chandler Smith currently runs in 5th position. Good run going on so far. And how about this on lap 175, the 33 truck of Ryan Truex goes 3 wide beneath the 2 of Sheldon Creed and the 11 of Spencer Davis. All of them running on the lead lap, and Truex moves up into 9th position with this move. And also, ironically enough, the 31 truck of Ty Dillon got disrupted by the lap truck, his teammate of Casey Mears, and that allowed the 87 truck of Timothy Peters to take up the second spot once again. And by lap 177, that 30 truck of Brennan Poole currently holds a 3-second advantage above the second place runner of Timothy Peters, really checking out right now. Lap 178, we get probably our most minor caution flag of the day. The 23 truck goes way up the racetrack, slams the outside wall, and already has damage on that number 23 truck. Debris flies off the truck, and that's right up in front of the race leader. Debris flying off the 23 truck of Brett Holmes brings out the caution flag. Also a flat tire on the 23 that he developed under the caution flag period due to the sheet metal rubbing up on the 23 truck. The 30 of Brennan Poole leads the field back to the caution flag. So because Holmes pitted while pit road was closed, he did not have to pit during the caution flag period. So both he and Grant Enfinger, the lap trucks, opted to stay out, and they will restart in between the race leader of Brennan Poole and the second place runner of Timothy Peters. And even knowing he's a lap down, Matt Crafton was not playing on this restart. He's trying to get up to that 30 truck to try and get back onto the lead lap, hopefully catch a caution and be back in contention. Because look at this run through turns 3 and 4. Gets underneath Gilliland. And two of his teammates, including Enfinger and Ben Rhodes, getting the run on the exit of turn number 4. 4 abreast down the front straightaway. Enfinger backs out, and Crafton gets around all of them. 87 truck of Timothy Peters has driven his way around the lap traffic, but still the 30 of Brendan Poole trying to run away with this race lead. Farther back in the field, though, we have yet another caution flag. Contact between the 0 of Tate Fogelman and the 25 of Michael Self, right in front of the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed right there. Little bit of damage to the 2 truck as the 0 finishes off the 25. Michael Self goes for a loop down the back straightaway, bringing out yet another caution flag, but really no damage on that Rackley Roofing Tundra. And on the restart, the 87 truck of Timothy Peters moves up the racetrack just a little bit too much, allowing the 46 truck to restart from 4th and drive his way all the way up into 2nd position. Down into turn number 3 as the 30 truck of Brendan Poole defends the inside line. But how about this on lap 191? The lap truck of Matt Crafton gets down to the inside of the 2nd place runner of Christian Eckes, trying to chase down that 30 of Brendan Poole, knowing that we'll get potentially one green-white checkered opportunity, which will give Matt Crafton possibly even the opportunity of making up even more spots, as even knowing he runs in 16th position, he is 1 lap down and will have to get around that 30 truck and catch a lucky caution to be in any bit of a contention to get a top 15 finish. And Brendan Poole is loving having this 88 truck of Matt Crafton separating him from the 2nd place runner of Chandler Smith, because right now he does not have to worry about the 88 truck of Crafton. He's 1 lap down. Crafton could even pass that 30 truck, and it would not make any difference to Brendan Poole, as Poole is trying to run away with this first career Camping World Truck Series race victory. And this could be monumental for On Point Motorsports, taking home a triple truck challenge race victory. The number 2 truck of Sheldon Creed got a bad restart. He's dropped down to 13th spot. Even though he's on the lead lap, he's not really taking advantage of Matt Crafton's misfortune, because right now Crafton is in 16th position, 1 lap down, and Sheldon Creed is on the lead lap in 13th position. There was a 5-point deficit coming into this race. Crafton still holds the point lead. And how about this on the inside? The 38 truck of Todd Gilliland's just gotten around the 99 of Ben Rhodes. That will move Gilliland up into 4th position. The pole sitter starting to carve his way back through the field. And how about this? Now just 5 laps to go here at the Milwaukee Mile. Matt Crafton still separating 1st and 2nd. And the gap between the 30 and 46 trucks is now 1.2 seconds, with time running out for Chandler Smith. Here comes the 38 truck of Todd Gilliland now to the inside of the 31 of Ty Dillon. Gilliland moves him up the racetrack, and now Gilliland is going to take up the 3rd position, but it's going to be too little, too late, as now the white flag waves for Brendan Poole here in Milwaukee. Just 1 more mile left for Poole to score his first career Camping World Truck Series victory. And now down the back straightaway, 2 lap trucks separate him from the 2nd place runner of Chandler Smith, those being the 88 of Crafton and the 18 of Ty Gibbs. Through the final 2 corners, taking a very conservative line, just limping the truck back to the start-finish line. Brendan Poole onto the front stretch will win the DieHard 200 from the Milwaukee Mile. Brendan Poole finally breaks through for On Point Motorsports, the team's 2nd win of the season. They won with Scott Lagasse Jr. at Watkins Glen, but Poole has finally done it. This will be a huge shakeup in the playoffs, as Poole came into this race with a 57-point deficit to the top 16. This is certainly going to bump a few drivers to now the outside looking in, and potentially themselves into must-win territory. A well-deserving win for Brendan Poole here in Milwaukee, and a runner-up finish for Chandler Smith. That's a best career finish for Smith. And so Brendan Poole taking home the victory in the DieHard 200 here at the Milwaukee Mile, the 2nd race of the Triple Truck Challenge. He will pocket $50,000 of bonus money from Marcus Lemonis. and 2 races of Camping World primary sponsorship once the playoffs begin. This is a huge boost for On Point Motorsports and will almost certainly help them in their quest for the championship over the course of the 10 races in the playoffs. The sponsorship will kick in right when it matters most. And so now in your regular season point standings, look at this point gap. Matt Crafton holds the advantage above Sheldon Creed by 2 points, separating the top 2. And then Ben Rhodes has closed it in to just 16 points, separating the top 3. We only have 5 races left in the regular season following today's event here at the Milwaukee Mile, and 3 trucks within 16 points of the point lead, the tightest points race in NASCAR's National Series currently. The Truck Series almost always delivers when it comes to tight point battles, even with regular season calculations. Ty Gibbs picks up 1 spot in point standings, now to 4th position in the standings, 44 points out of the point lead. He is tied with Parker Kligerman, 44 points out of the lead. Ty Gibbs picks up 1 spot in points, now to 4th in regular season point standings. He has 44 points out of the point lead. He is tied, actually, with Parker Kligerman at 44 points out of that lead, but Gibbs gets the tiebreaker with his win at Talladega. But a great run so far for Kligerman, picking up 3 spots now in standings, up to 5th. Timothy Peters picks up 3 spots as well, now to 6th position, 46 points out of the lead. Grant Enfinger drops down 1 spot, down to 7th, 53 points out of the point lead. Ty Dillon picks up 2 spots in points, now to 8th spot, 56 points out of the point lead. Christian Eckes loses a full 5 spots in points after a terrible race here at Milwaukee, now down to 9th in regular season points, 64 points out of the point lead. And Casey Mears loses 3 spots in regular season points, down to 10th, 65 points out of the point lead. And so now in your playoff standings, Matt Crafton, Ben Rhodes, Christian Eckes, Austin Hill, Sheldon Creed, Ty Gibbs, Timothy Peters, Grant Enfinger, Casey Mears, Dawson Cram, Ryan Truex, Brendan Poole, and Stuart Friesen are all locked into the playoffs via their wins so far this season. 13 drivers locked in through wins. Remarkable right now in the Camping World Truck Series. We have more drivers locked in to the playoffs via wins than we have ever had eligible in seasons prior for the playoffs in general. So the expansions that the Truck Series have made this season have really brought a lot of competition to the series, and it's fantastic to see. Parker Kligerman sets best of the rest still without a win this season. 58 points above the cutoff line. That's at least more than 1 race. They can feel a little bit secure there, but with 5 races remaining, you can't count out us having 5 additional different winners, and it turned into an all-out battle among those who have won at least 1 race this season. So you can't bank on those points really with the way our playoff system works. Ty Dillon also has run a great season so far, even without a win, 46 points above the cutoff line. But then look at how close it gets below Dillon, because Dillon is still at least 1 race above. In fact, exactly 1 race above the cutoff line. Brett Holmes is tied at that cutoff line, just barely getting in with the tiebreaker above the number 92 truck of Austin Theriault. And you can tell how much the playoff grid has shifted with this 30 truck winning its way in. Ty Majeski sits 3 points on the outside looking in. The 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek is now 15 points on the outside looking in. And the 21 truck of Zane Smith sets 25 points on the outside of the playoffs. So now really there's only 1 spot more or less up for grabs through points, because it looks like Kligerman and Dillon, as long as we don't get more new winners, have practically pointed their way into the playoffs this season, with how secure of a point lead they have right now above the 16th place cutoff line. But from Holmes down to really even Zane Smith, it is an incredibly close battle for more or less just 1 spot. And so next we'll be getting on to my personal favorite segment of the show, Q&A. Hello everyone, welcome back to Post Tech. Before I get on to the questions, I gotta give you the disclaimer. If I mispronounce any names or handles, I do apologize, but it's bound to happen. And also, I had to trim down the amount of questions I'm going to be answering just a little bit, down to just 10. We had so many questions come in once again that I had to get a little bit selective with it, so I do apologize to those who had their questions skipped, but keep in mind that at the end of the year, we will be holding a special edition of Post Tech where it's just Q&A happy hour. It's just going to be an episode dedicated to just questions sent in by fans like you at home. And should be rather interactive with those of you who enjoy the show. So if your question does get skipped, you can either ask it again or we'll just go through the database, I guess you could say, and answer it during the final episode of this first season of Post Tech. So now into question number 1 from RFJ. Could we see Nice eventually move up to Cup with Carson? And also, we're just using the questions that are most topical for our current era of motorsports, which changes by the week. But Nice Motorsports could eventually move up to Cup, certainly with Carson Hocevar, depending on how things develop with him in the Camping World Truck Series. Things have been looking good. He's obviously their best driver that they have right now, who is full-time because, they lost Brett Moffitt to the Xfinity Series already. That was probably their best bet for the moment. But Nice is going to have a very good opportunity of going up to Cup if they keep getting these good runs in the Camping World trucks because of this spec car coming into Cup. The whole next-gen car, that's going to actually lower the price, and I've heard certain figures where it's going to lower the price down to where building a truck is actually going to cost more than building a Cup car because you have to still build the truck from the ground up. The Cup car, you just kind of buy a kit. So it's going to drive the cost down a lot. In that regard, it's going to be a lot like what we see in IndyCar, where every car is, kind of built almost like a loaf of bread. It has a part number. It's more stock car racing, actually, because you're not building something from the ground up, really. You start with a stock product, even though it's not from a manufacturer. Well, technically it's from Dallara, but it's not from one of the big 3 manufacturers or anything like that. But it's actually more stock than what we see currently. But it's going to give Nice Motorsports a great opportunity to move up to Cup, and right now it looks like Carson Hocevar will be their best bet in development for the future, because right now it's really their only development driver that's working out. He's been getting rather consistent runs, hasn't broken through to victory lane, but that's just kind of a general Nice Motorsports issue. Their trucks haven't really been fast enough to find victory lane this season. Quite a few trucks have been very competitive this year. We're starting to see Nemco Motorsports show up to the forefront of the field, and On Point, who won at Milwaukee. Competition's getting tougher and tougher, but Nice Motorsports will find a great opportunity to move up to Cup in the next few years with this next-gen car. My personal guess is they probably wait until the new engine formula, and just see how that goes before they would get in. So my personal guess would be somewhere around 2024. Probably somewhere around that year for Nice Motorsports to eventually move up to Cup. But this next-gen car will give them a good opportunity. And I believe that Carson Hocevar will be their number 1 candidate unless they find, say, someone better in the future in the next few years. But the way it's looking, that's probably not going to happen. So they probably will move Hocevar up to the Xfinity, then Cup Series over the next few years. My personal guess will be right around 2024 for when they'd make up to the Cup Series with driver Hocevar. Now the next question from Todoraki. Could we see KBM eventually move to Cup with Chandler Smith or John Hunter Nemechek or Ty Gibbs? My personal bet would be on probably Ty Gibbs because Chandler Smith, John Hunter Nemechek, even though Smith just finished runner-up at Milwaukee, you see John Hunter Nemechek, who's now in his whole suspension situation. It's looking like his odds of making the playoffs this year in the Truck Series are fairly low, because he will certainly be in the must-win situation, whether or not this is a 1 or 2 race suspension. Regardless, he was in must-win coming into Milwaukee. Wrecks out at Milwaukee, gets parked as well. Now he's going to be out for the next 1 or 2 or who knows, even 3 races. I don't think John Hunter's going to make the playoffs this year, and it's been kind of a big disappointment for TRD. So even though he ran pretty darn good in the Cup car at Bristol Dirt, subbing for Kyle Busch, who was also suspended going off of his truck race at the Bristol Dirt track, I don't think KBM wants him exactly for a NASCAR Cup Series car. I think that John Hunter Nemechek is probably going to have to find another team for next season. It's entirely possible that they could keep him in the TRD fold, maybe move him to Sam Hunt Racing for next season for an Xfinity ride. That might sound like an improvement, but not exactly, because you're taking him out of the big money equipment and moving him over to kind of an upstart as Sam Hunt. So that's where I would put my money on John Hunter. Chandler Smith, we don't really know how his development's going to go, because you know how TRD works their development drivers. If they aren't instant successes, they don't want them. And even if they are, they let them go eventually. So Chandler Smith will probably have to end up, if he does make it to Cup, going through someone else. I could probably see him going almost the Todd Gilliland route of going to Ford or some organization like that. I don't think Chandler Smith is going to make it to Cup with Toyota, let's just say that. Ty Gibbs is my personal bet of who could make it to Cup with KBM. That would probably be used as a development car to get him into a Gibbs car. Say I don't know, Kyle Busch and Ty Gibbs could swap rides, or when Truex eventually retires, they could probably move Ty Gibbs into that car very easily, because we all know Ty Gibbs has the talent to move up to Cup within the next year or two. It's just in regard to who he does replace, because Joe Gibbs Racing is kind of a super team. I mean, it always kind of has been, but especially now that they have 4 competitive cars. It's hard thing to beat, and it's a really hard thing to try and remove someone from your cars when your team is running this good to put another driver in. So my personal bet of those 3 drivers to make it to Cup with KBM is Ty Gibbs, because it's their, only driver this season who has won a race, not named Kyle Busch, and KBM's only won 2 races this year through the first, 21 Camping World Truck Series races of the season. They've only visited Victory Lane twice, Kyle Busch at Louisville, and Ty Gibbs at Talladega Superspeedway. So my personal bet is Gibbs moving up to Cup with KBM. I really don't know where John Hunter's going to end up next year even, and Chandler Smith will likely stay within Toyota for the next year or so, but he'll likely end up being like any of their other prospects and end up moving to Ford or something like that, because he has a future. I just really doubt it being a TRD. Next question also from Total Rocky: are any Driver's Edge development drivers on any Chevy team's list for a drive? So GMS Racing's been looking at starting a second car already for their Cup Series program, mainly going off of how well Ankrum has been running. Even knowing, let's imagine for a moment, Ankrum moves up to HMS, even knowing that wouldn't exactly be moving up, that's kind of moving over. But let's say he goes to the 24 car at Hendrick Motorsports. There's going to be more funding there at the very least. We have Jimmy Johnson potentially going to the 26 car at GMS. That's going to be a whole bunch of money coming in from Johnson. The prestige that he brings to an organization is ginormous. I can't imagine how many zeros the contract he signed with Chip Ganassi Racing contains for that IndyCar ride. But we'd have Johnson in the 26, let's say, and they want Sheldon Creed driving a second car at GMS. So that is the Driver's Edge development driver that will likely at least get a Cup ride within the next year or two, will be Sheldon Creed, because he excelled fairly well in the All-Star race, which was his first ever drive in a Cup car. He got the Bristol Dirt race, which he did fairly well in, got in trouble a couple times in that, but still did pretty good for that being his first ever points-paying start in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I would say that Sheldon Creed is who they're looking after, and GMS wants to keep him as part of their organization. Unless, maybe they could slip him over to another Chevrolet team. We've been seeing Junior Motorsports being rumored as wanting to start a Cup team. I think that'll be a few years down the road. But Sheldon Creed could potentially move over there as well. We all know Colleague Racing is probably going to split from Spire Motorsports at the end of the year. There's a lot of Chevrolet teams that he could go with, but my personal bet would be on a second GMS Racing car. Whether it be Ankrum or Jimmy Johnson as his teammate, we really have no idea. But I would say Sheldon Creed is the top driver, development driver, who will make it up to the Cup Series in the future. If he can't make it up to a Cup car next year or the year after, he will at least be promoted to the Xfinity Series at the very least at the end of the year, because he's already a Truck Series champion and has a good shot at another title this year. So Sheldon Creed is really their number one prospect at the moment. And after Creed, we'll probably have Sam Mayer being definitely promoted through the series. We all know very well how much Tony Stewart is eyeing him, and with all the rumors of Stuart Evernham being a Chevrolet team, Sam Mayer would be a perfect setup for that organization to hire another driver after, let's say, the eventual retirement of Kevin Harvick. My personal bet is this is probably his last contract. It's going to last all the way out to the end of 2023. But at the same time, we really have no idea, because Kevin Harvick has said this before, that he'll only stop driving when it's not fun. And Kevin Harvick is leading the Cup Series point standings as far up as 2021. This is his 20th year in the Cup Series, 21st season, 20th year, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. So it could stay fun all the way up into his 50s. If he turns out to be like a Mark Martin or Harry Gant figure of our modern era, I'd kind of like to see that. So if Kevin Harvick keeps up his performance, Sam Mayer might just move to a third Stuart Evernham car, let's just say. So Mayer is really who they're looking after Sheldon Creed. And also follow up to that, is Kevin Harvick looking for more drivers to represent KHI management? The driver who he's looking for is almost definitely Sam Mayer. He's not a part of KHI's management group yet, but I can almost guarantee you that they're probably going to bring Sam Mayer into the fold. Beyond that, really no more rumors, but it looks like they want Harrison Burton, Ryan Preece, and Sam Mayer to be the 3 drivers that they manage in the future for at least the next few years. They could obviously add a few more, but I kind of doubt it happening at the moment. Things just aren't really looking that way. I think Kevin wants to focus on just a few good drivers and focus on really developing them, especially the future of Sam Mayer. Next question from RFJ. There is rumors now Junior Motorsports might look into 2023 to get involved in the Cup Series. Any updates on that front from you guys? So, really, it would make sense for Junior to try and get in with the whole new engine formula because that would be, very fresh moment for really everyone involved in the sport. New engines, a relatively new car at that point because, second year program for the next gen car. Odds are they're probably going to delay the engine program to 24. That's just my personal guess. Right now we have it on track for 23, but I don't really think that's what NASCAR wants to do because it'd kind of be a time crunch to get it ready by 23. I think 24 is when we're going to see the new engine program come out. However, that would be a prime opportunity for Junior Motorsports to get into the Cup Series level, and we all know how much Junior's talked about being a Cup Series owner. There's no other, higher level of NASCAR team ownership. So, Earnhardt Jr. is definitely looking at ways to do it. We all know that Josh Berry would almost certainly be the driver, going off of how things have been going with him and Berry, the whole development path ever since, online racing to then, Wheel and All-American Tour up to the Xfinity Series where he is now winner. So it looks like he will be their Cup Series driver. The timetable, probably 23 or 24 with the whole new engine program, but they're looking to get in as early as next season if they can find a way to put together a good program. And with the spec car coming in, I wouldn't quite doubt a couple starts at JRM for next season. And if they can really get a good program going, they could go to a more like how GMS ran last season type schedule, like 10 to 15 races with Josh Berry if they can really put together the funds to do it. Because, we all know how much this next-gen car is going to limit the cost of chassis building because there's no real building involved with it. You just kind of purchase the kit car. So it's going to lower that cost in a lot of ways and definitely bring JRM into the fold of, Cup Series team ownership. So I will say that Earnhardt Jr. is almost certainly going to do it within the next 2 to 3 years. We don't know the exact timetable, but I'm fairly confident it's going to happen because Earnhardt has the money to put up to start a Cup Series team. Whether or not it'd be successful, I have no idea. We'd have to see once they get on track. But I'm fairly confident with especially Junior's attitude towards it that they will be Cup owners within the next few seasons at this rate. Next question from Charlie 00. Timothy Peters has ran well with Nemco so far this season. Do we expect to see him keep this run going? I would say so. Nemco, they had the win at Memphis, even though that was kind of cheesed a little bit. They had a great run at Milwaukee through the first 2 Triple Truck Challenge races. Timothy Peters has got a really good thing going. I think that win at Memphis really gave them the fire that they need to try and potentially make a shot at the championship this season with that number 87 team, because they've been the flagship team for Ford so far this year. And right now, it looks like they're definitely going to carry the Blue Oval through the playoffs this year. And Ford will almost certainly have to back Nemco a little bit more next season because they put a lot of backing into LGR this season, and that really has not been working out so well. We all know about the troubles that Ford has had with the F-150 body. They're looking at getting a new body confirmed by NASCAR for use by the start of the playoffs, but it's not exactly going to help them too much if they get it for the last 10 races and they only have one truck in the top 16, which would be Timothy Peters at the current moment. They could make a nice shot at the championship with Peters, but they'd like to have more than just one truck in the fight for the championship. But I definitely do expect to see Timothy continue this run going. They've had great runs over the last few weeks, and Timothy's the type of driver that can get the job done. And you give him the truck to do it, and he's going to run up front. And that's what they've been doing the last few weeks, and Timothy Peters is certainly going to have a shot at the championship this season in that number 87 Ford F-150. Next question from Closed Captions Available. Due to the sponsorship woes with Trackhouse this season, could they move on from Ryan Preece at season's end if his KHI partners don't stay long-term? So really, like I mentioned earlier, this whole Trackhouse racing situation is very fluid for next year. We could very well expect Ryan Preece driving a KHI truck next season. We could see Trackhouse sell off at the end of the year to Kevin Harvick to keep Preece at the Cup level. We could see them pick up another driver, potentially a funded driver. Heard even recent rumors popping up about Noah Gragson being a driver they could consider, because he might potentially even bring, Bass Pro Shops if he can keep that deal going in Black Rifle Coffee. As much as I kind of doubt that happening, it's still a potential option that it is on the table because he's not re-signed with JRM. So I kind of doubt at this current juncture that Priest will be back in that 99 next season. I think that he will be looking towards maybe solidifying a deal with KHI for the Camping World Truck Series program, because Priest wants to go somewhere that he can win. And the way the Cup Series is right now, maybe this will be nullified by the next gen car, but the way it is right now, they are not really in a position to win races. And Priest is a driver that, feeds off of that energy from winning races, as any driver would. But him especially going off of, how he not exactly drops down sometimes, because the modifieds are sometimes more competitive than Cup races because of how strong the fields are sometimes. But Ryan Priest sometimes goes to run a modified race, takes home a victory, and it boosts his confidence for the Cup car. So he feeds off that winning attitude. So that might be something he would look forward to, driving a Camping World truck full-time next season. So maybe that would kind of sway Priest's decision, going somewhere where he knows that he could take home victories. So honestly, my bet would probably be on Priest going to KHI next season to drive their truck. So more or less, you'd have to look for Trackhouse to pick up another driver next year. But if his KHI partners don't stay long-term, that more or less confirms that Priest won't be driving that car next season, because they were almost going to shut down mid-season before KHI stepped up and kind of take a hiatus maybe until next season, prep their field of next-gen cars to run with somebody else, because things were looking really bad there for a while. They at least scored the KHI partners. It's going to propel them at least to the end of the season with their part-time program, but right now, it's not looking too good for Priest to return to the 99 car next season. It's an option, and let's just say that they'll probably have to win a race for it to actually happen. But I would say that Priest is probably going to go somewhere that he can legitimately be a contender for the front of the field for next season. Next question from Colin McCoy. There are rumors of Harrison Burton possibly moving over to Wood Brothers Racing for the 2022 season. Has there been any talk about this happening? That 21 car is very dynamic. More or less the last few years, there's rumors about, a new driver taking over that ride all the time. But right now, Austin Cindric is doing fairly well in that 21. I don't expect Roger Penske wanting to make that 02 car full-time. It just doesn't exactly sound like something he would try and do. He's never really ran 4 full-time entries, so I don't exactly think that's something Penske would want. It's something he could consider with the cost being reduced with this whole next-gen car. I wouldn't exactly doubt him doing it, but that's the only way that could happen. We know that Burton is in a contract season, though. At the end of the year, his contract with Levine Family Racing will expire. It would kind of be disappointing for Levine to have to find another different driver, because if you look at their last few seasons, Benedetto, Bell, Burton, they've had a different driver every year. Now, granted, they've won a race at least with all 3 drivers, but they've had to kind of rebuild their whole team every single time that happens, which has to be a little bit frustrating at a certain point. But Harrison Burton, if Austin Cindric, say, goes to the 02 car, because, Benedetto signed long-term, maybe Blaney could leave the organization, because this is a contract year for Blaney. Todd Gordon, his crew chief, is retiring at the end of the year, and that team has fallen off a cliff from last season, so maybe potentially Blaney could vacate the 12 car and open up a seat for Cindric. But only if that 21 car opens up do I expect Harrison Burton moving over to that ride, because Austin Cindric's done phenomenally for them this season, and I don't expect that changing. And Harrison Burton has actually got a very good deal going on at LFR, Levine Family Racing, but I guess you could say that money would talk in that sort of situation. So, Levine is kind of I'm not going to say underfunded team because of Harrison Burton's partners, but they're kind of a shaky organization. There have been rumors over the last season and a half that they were going to shut down. Those rumors popped up in the middle of 2020. It didn't happen when they landed a driver such as Harrison Burton, who brought funding. But if Burton is set on leaving the team, LFR might potentially close at the end of the year unless they can find another funded driver, but they are at least going to be supported by TRD. So it looks like that situation will probably work out. I would expect Harrison Burton to be back in the 95 car next year. That's my personal bet because it looks like nobody at JGR is moving for next season. So they're not going to try and bring him into that, 4-car super team because they already have a super team. There's nobody leaving. That announcement at Daytona out of JGR, the press conference that they have scheduled, I guarantee you it's just going to be a Martin Truex Jr. contract extension. It looks like that's just what it's going to be. It's getting to be fairly obvious now with Truex consistently staying in that top 10 in regular season points. So my money is on Burton returning to the 95 car next season out of almost necessity, but if he does want to try and get hired by, I guess you could say, a super team, he probably will have to swap makes. So that is at least on the table for Harrison next season. KHI management might try to move him over to, an organization on the Chevy side of things if Harvick moves to a Stuart Evernham type deal, because I'm sure that team would be Chevrolet, because it would probably burn Stewart's bridges with Ford, splitting from Gene Haas. So potentially Harrison Burton could be moved over by KHI. I don't expect him doing like what Priest is rumored to do and dropping down to a truck, but Harrison Burton will likely stay in that 95, but nothing is confirmed yet, and the way this sport works, you can't confirm anything until an announcement gets made. So, yeah, unless it's like, Truex's probable contract extension, sometimes there are a few things that are just really, really obvious, but not too often, especially when it comes to a youngster like Burton getting hired to a different team. Who really knows? He could even be a candidate for the 24 car at Hendrick Motorsports. We really don't know right now. But the Wood brothers seem to be satisfied with Austin Cindric. I don't expect the captain to use that 4th car for a full-time driver next season. I think he likes having it as kind of an all-star car for the Cup Series. And so I don't expect the current situation to change, but we'll definitely have to keep our eyes on it. And now next question from RFJ. Could we see Ernie Francis Jr. get a ride in NASCAR? Well, we definitely know that those rumors are picking up steam. There are current big-time rumors that Marcus Lemonis could fund a program with him and Roger Penske in NASCAR's Xfinity Series that would be replacing the current driver of the 22 car at Team Penske in the Xfinity Series level, Sam Hornish Jr., who they brought in this year after Austin Cindric moved up to the Cup level. Hornish been doing very good in that car, though. A couple wins already this season. But Ernie Francis Jr., if Hornish does want to, step back from racing on a full-time basis again, which, wouldn't exactly surprise me too much, Ernie Francis Jr. would be a very good driver for it. He reminds me, honestly, a lot of Austin Cindric in the sense of comes from a road course racing background. They'd probably adapt to the Cup car really fast, or Xfinity car in this case. So Ernie Francis would be a good pick, I'd say, for Roger Penske and that whole organization, especially if they can secure that deal with Marcus Lemonis and his companies. It'd be a very good deal there out of sponsorship. So Ernie Francis Jr. could potentially get a Cup ride or an Xfinity ride within the next few years. I somewhat doubt it, but he has been impressing people lately, especially because people are finally starting to take notice of all his success in Trans Am, which is, well-deserved for him to potentially land a full-time Xfinity program for next season. So I'd like to see Ernie Francis get the ride in some capacity in the next few years in NASCAR. Somewhat doubt it, but if he does get the funding from Marcus Lemonis, it could almost certainly happen. So I'd very much like to see Ernie Francis Jr. in NASCAR. He'd be a great addition to our sport because of all the talent that he would bring. Fantastic road course racer, and I'm sure that he would adapt to the oval racing very quickly. And now the final question from RFJ as well. Will Nemco come back to Cup full-time? And so Nemco, even with all their success in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series with Timothy Peters as their driver, I highly doubt a full-time program in the NASCAR Cup Series. Once again, I would expect them to run on a part-time basis, most likely, much like what they've run this year, super speedways and short-track companion events with the Camping World trucks. So, with this next-gen car, it will lower cost, as I've mentioned numerous times. It might bring Nemco back into the fold of running more races, but I don't think that they're eyeballing a full-time program. I think there's too much competition for Joe and the guys to want to run a full-time Cup Series car, but they most likely will try and enter 2 cars again in at least the Daytona 500 next season with Peters and Joe Nemechek as the drivers, because they're both really good drafters with each other. Unfortunately, both of them did not make the 500 this season, but next year, coming back with this whole next-gen car, they will at least be rather competitive, I'd expect, because the whole chassis element, the disparity between money there is eliminated. Obviously, still the engine disparity would still be there, but they could, buy a Roush Yates engine with this continued connections with Ford and have the horsepower and the chassis to boot. The bodies are going to be spec as well, so they'd have a good piece coming into Daytona. I do not expect to see a full-time program again at a Nemco in the Cup Series, but a part-time program, they'd be awfully strong going off of their recent runs in the Truck Series, and they'd likely get a lot of funding out of Ford because they're gaining a lot of momentum going off of their recent few weeks in the Camping World Trucks with their win at Memphis and now their success at the Milwaukee Mile. And so, folks, that does it for episode number 18 of Post Tech. We hope that you have enjoyed it. The next time you'll be seeing us will be up in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, as the NASCAR Cup Series takes on Road America for the second time in series history, the first time since the Grand National Series took on the racetrack back in 1956. So we are heading up to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin this weekend for the Jockey Made in America 250. It should be a very fun one as we approach the playoffs starting at Darlington in just a few weeks.